Good evening. If everyone could come in and take your seats, we're going to go ahead and get started here in just a second. Thank you.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hey everybody! Come on in. We're gonna kick this meeting off. Wow, everyone got so quiet. So it's beautiful, it's a Tuesday, the weather's gonna kick up from here on out. Hopefully Tom guaranteed that we're done with snow for the year, so we're in a good place. Well, anyways, good evening, everyone. Good to see mostly all familiar faces here tonight. My name is Kerry McCormick, and I have the privilege of working for the people of Ward 3 on Cleveland City Council. And it is, thank you. Thank you, Roger, for bailing me out there. Appreciate that. No, but it is so great to be with you tonight and really great to be in person. I mean, I think many of us have become fluent in these digital platforms, but there is nothing that replaces in-person dialogue, seeing your neighbors, getting that hug, sharing a piece of pizza. So it's so good to see everyone here tonight. As many of you are aware, I'm not only your council person, but a member of Ohio City Incorporated, a resident in the neighborhood, and a former employee as a community organizer here in Ohio City. So this meeting every year always has a special place in my heart. I used to be the one like running around and making sure things were in line and all that kind of stuff. But really, I'm going to be brief, but what I want to just touch on is, first and foremost, thank you. Over the past 2.5 years, it has been so inspiring to see so many people in this community step up for neighbors, and whether that was posting an encouraging sign on your front door, helping out a neighbor, getting yourself or your friends to get vaccinated, out of the craziness that has been the past couple years. Not that I'm surprised, but this community has truly stepped up to take care of each other. So I want to thank you all for doing that. There is a lot of change at City Hall. It is a good and needed change, absolutely. I'll clap to that. And we're starting to really see that and feel that in the community. And what's so exciting is we're just over 100 days in of a new administration and a new council, and we're starting to see real tangible action happening on a lot of the items that we've talked about for a long time. So we're seeing real progress at the West Side Market. Our own, absolutely, yes. Is Jessica here tonight, Trevisano? Our own Jessica Trevisano, who's a former block club leader and a neighborhood resident, was selected by the mayor to be the point on the West Side Market, and I will tell you that she has hit the ground sprinting to ensure that our vendors' leases are cleaned up, that the progress for the market when it comes to capital investments are happening, and essentially that there is a coordinator to ensure that all the progress that we've been talking about for years, that we've been yelling about, that I've been harassing people about, is starting to move. We're seeing movement, which is so exciting. And the last thing I'll say about the market is that I haven't heard hope in vendors' voices in a long time. And for those of us that go to the market and shop at the market, not everything's fixed right away. There's a long road to go, but you hear hope again, which is really, really exciting. So that process is moving forward. Judy is going to be helping us from the community side on that. Every time I walk down Bridge Avenue, she reminds me of that. But we're starting to see that progress. Last night at City Council, we introduced, after 4 years of work, a complete and green streets ordinance that says our communities should not just be cut-throughs for commuters, but we should think about ensuring that there are safe crosswalks, that people aren't speeding through our communities, that we have high-quality bike infrastructure in our neighborhoods to connect folks. The legislation last night that was blocked for years that I've sponsored and the mayor has joined me will fundamentally take a new look at how we build our roads and connect our communities to one another. We're also seeing tremendous investment in a lot of different areas that I'm not going to bore you about, but here's the bottom line. The culture at City Hall has changed to a yes culture. The mayor has hit the ground running. He's put in really bright people around him, and this is turning a ship, not a jet ski, so it's going to take time, but I'm excited to report back from City Hall that there is a new energy, there's a new excitement, there's a new vigor, there's a new hunger to do better, to be innovative. And I don't know about you, but I'm born and raised in the city of Cleveland my whole life, and this is some of the most optimistic I've been about our future in a long time. So what's important, though, is that the people in this room and folks that have come before us have been a critical part of that progress. So as you've always done, please continue to lean into your block club. Please continue to lean into Ohio City Incorporated. Run for the board. Help folks that are supporting the community. Lead initiatives in our neighborhood. We have a tremendous community with a ton of potential, and it's only going to get better from here on out, supporting programs that like Ohio City Incorporated brings to our neighborhood. So again, thank you for being a part of this organization. Thank you for everything that you've done to make our neighborhood so special, and please continue to be involved as we really launch into the next phase of the city's future, where we have the opportunity to finally tap into its potential. I love you all. Thank you so much. And then I'm going to bring up Andy on behalf of the Board of Trustees to make a few comments.
Hi, everyone. Oh, is this on? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Andy Traers, and on behalf of the Board of Directors of Ohio City Incorporated, welcome tonight. For all of us the past 2 years, it's been a challenging time. And for community development organizations whose work is based on engaging the community, it's presented a particular set of challenges. OCI, during the pandemic, not only stepped up to meet community needs, but incorporated those solutions into a permanent part of its work, as evidenced by the fact that we're live streaming this year's annual meeting, in addition to the in-person component. As board treasurer of OCI, I'm happy to report that over the past 2 years, OCI has been able to remain financially stable and ended the previous fiscal year with a slight surplus. This was only possible through the generous support of individuals, businesses, foundations, and pandemic relief programs. So for those of you that supported OCI in some way in the past year or the past 2 years, we thank you very much for that ongoing support. Our work would not be possible without you. I'd also like to thank my fellow board members who thoughtfully and carefully guided the organization through such an unusual time, not only focusing on the short-term needs of the organization, but also looking at the long-term health and how do we sustain this work into the future. One of those initiatives that the board really focused on over the past 2 years that I'd like to highlight involves one of the initiatives I'd like to highlight involves the 2525 Market Avenue property, which was a long-term asset for OCI and helped support the work of the organization. About a year ago, the organization sold that asset and was able to reinvest in the neighborhood in a couple of really important ways that'll benefit both the organization and the neighborhood as a whole. They were, one, financially investing in Fairview Gardens to help maintain that affordable housing asset. Two, establishing an endowment for the organization held at the Cleveland Foundation that'll benefit the neighborhood, as well as investing in additional assets in the neighborhood to increase the long-term organizational revenue. So we believe that these investments will bolster the organization and sustain its ability to engage and serve the neighborhood long-term. The board's really proud of the work that OCI has done over the past year. We're excited to share with you the accomplishments over the past year, the plans for 2022, and to meet the board candidates tonight. So again, on behalf of the board of directors, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a good evening. So now I'm going to hand it over to OCI Executive Director, Tom McNair.
Thank you, Andy. Again, my name is Tom McNair. I'm the Executive Director of Ohio City Incorporated, and I would like to be the third person to welcome you to tonight's annual meeting. And I'll be very honest. For us tonight, I think success is simply having an annual meeting and a Meet the Candidates night and bringing everyone back together. As Andy mentioned, the last couple of years have been challenging for all of us. I think that many of us personally have lost loved ones or friends. I think that there's a lot of trauma that one day we'll all be forced to deal with as it comes around these things. And certainly most of us have had to adapt and evolve professionally. As Andy also mentioned, right, the last couple of years have been extraordinarily difficult on organizations like ours with a lot of financial uncertainty. And to that end, I would also like to thank our board of directors for, as he said, a very unusual past couple of years. And in particular tonight, I would like to thank Kathleen Niddle, who I saw somewhere around here, for whom this is her last annual meeting. Can you say hello, Kathleen? Her last annual meeting. Her last annual meeting as a member of the board of directors. But her last annual meeting as a board of directors after 12 years of service to the organization, and sincerely thank you for the time that you've invested in our organization and this neighborhood. It will be greatly missed personally and professionally. Again, we had our first in-person board meeting in 2 years last month, right? And trying to do this type of strategic work remotely is challenging in the best of circumstances. I also don't think that CDCs have been synonymous with technology, right? But we are doing much, much, much better lately. As Andy mentioned, through a partnership with Boxcast, we now have the ability to live stream meetings like this and other public meetings, because the reality is just because you can't be here tonight doesn't mean that you don't deserve access to this information, and that is something that we're really excited about. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our staff. Again, not only was there a lot of financial instability early on, there was a lot of transitions that we were dealing with. We had to have people do completely new roles, right? Like our jobs changed overnight in finding ways to be responsive to the community and doing things to help make this neighborhood a better place. And yet we were able to continue to make impact throughout that, right? And it's been interesting over the last several months because while we've made so many changes in the way that we've done work, the way that we've been responsive to the community, the work that we used to do has been coming back, right? And I'm constantly working with staff members to say, I don't have the ability to do that anymore based on the things we're doing, right? And so we've had some of those transitions take place. We're in the process of rebuilding our capacity, and I really do firmly believe that we are going to come out of this event stronger than when we went into it, right? And so, again, as we look back over the past couple of years, everything from supporting our small businesses, using Near West Recreation as a way not just to help keep kids physically fit, but mentally fit over this time, I think was critically important. We managed to launch a special improvement district expansion and also hire and train somebody completely remotely, which I pray that we never, ever, ever have to do again. But Michaela Lowry did a great job coming on in some really trying circumstances, right? And we completely had to rethink the way that we do community engagement. Again, from the ways that we were having kind of small group meetings to a co-urbanized platform that allowed those of us that are fortunate enough, right, to be able to participate online, finding ways for non-digital engagement. And again, how do we ensure that these things are streamed, that they are recorded, that they are available long-term to folks? And so with that, I want to take a minute to highlight some of the things that have happened over the course of the past year and let the staff do that. And so I'd like to start by inviting Whitney Long-Jones up to the stage. Where's Whitney? Oh, here she is. All right, thank you.
right. Hello, everyone. As Tom said, hi. My name is Whitney Long Jones. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Ohio City, Inc. And what you're looking at on the screen here is our JEDI impact statement. So JEDI stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And one of the things that we did have time to focus on during the pandemic was really looking at the way that we do our work, how we engage with the community. So trying to pull all of our resources and ability to connect virtually only, because a lot of this happened virtually. So from June 2020 all the way until now, where this is something we're still working on. But initially, just want to touch a little bit on last month's meeting, the community meeting. We shared information on that process. And the level of participation from the board and staff was absolutely amazing. And this is what we came up with through that entire process, our impact statement here. So I do want to take a minute to read this. It may be a lot of words, and for anyone who can't see it, bear with me for a moment while I read this. On June 17, 2020, Ohio City Incorporated's Board of Trustees passed a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis and committed to taking action at the board and staff levels to further anti-racist values and goals within our organization and the neighborhood. We are working to incorporate justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, JEDI, into all internal and external aspects of the organization while working with the community to better understand their needs. In 2021, we adopted a racial equity and inclusion policy and are implementing a JEDI framework to enact the REI policy. Connecting with diverse populations in ways that are relevant and sustainable will define how we build relationships, support resident-led projects, operate internally, and engage with neighborhood stakeholders. Ohio City Incorporated exists to lead the development of the Ohio City neighborhood in all ways. This cannot be accomplished without first acknowledging that Ohio City, while diverse and inclusive in many ways, is also a place with many inequities. Issues like high housing costs, increasing property taxes, and the cost of meeting community standard for housing conditions make it difficult for many people to live or continue living in our community. The processes that lift the voices of the community often exclude low-income residents, people of color, unhoused people, and many other marginalized groups. Every one of these inequities and more leads to displacement, residents feeling unwelcome in community spaces and events, and a community that is divided instead of equitable and inclusive. We at Ohio City Incorporated acknowledge that our organization and the iterations that came before us has unintentionally perpetuated many of these inequities in several ways, and that we have a responsibility to address them as part of our mission. This includes working with stakeholders, such as residents from every part of the neighborhood, housed or unhoused, business and property owners, and organizations and institutions to collect and share information and resources. It also includes identifying ways of promoting new and preserving existing affordable housing options. Additionally, we must elevate the voices of those who have been left out of existing community processes without losing the community participation that already exists. Ohio City Incorporated envisions a community in which all stakeholders are supported, engaged, and feel proud to call Ohio City their home for as long as they choose. In order to achieve this vision, we commit to increasing our engagement with marginalized residents, sharing information and resources using equitable means, and working to elevate the voices of all Ohio City stakeholders. We commit to serving our community as an advocate, a leader, a convener, a supporter, and a partner. So, all of that being read, looking ahead, we want to continue making sure that we are raising and allocating funds toward our all JEDI efforts that's internally and also community-led initiatives. We want to make sure we're working with community stakeholders to obtain diverse participation and feedback, and we want to continue sharing resources in equitable and inclusive manners So you can look for all of this information on our website. We're going to post the process that we've been through to get to where we are. We're going to share all the information that we use, the resources that we leaned on to gather all of this information and this data, and we'll come up with a date to launch everything, but we'll keep everybody posted, and you can find all of this on our website. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ashley Shaw. I'm our Chief Operating Officer. It was March of 2020 when the restaurants, the shelters, the social service agencies had all been shut down or moved to takeout only, that we recognized a community need for public restrooms. Limiting people's access to public restrooms limits their ability to employ safe public health practices. This was especially true during the pandemic. And so our organization had started scrambling to try to figure out, just a couple weeks into the pandemic, how to meet that community need. We learned that Campus District on the other side of downtown was trying to do the same thing, and so we entered into a partnership with them and Northeast Ohio Coalition for the Homeless, the City of Cleveland, and Cuyahoga County, and actually were able to raise $300,000 to employ 10 temporary public restrooms throughout the Near West Side and Campus District that were on the streets from March of 2020 until just earlier this month. In addition to the temporary restrooms, they also each came with hand sanitizing stations so that people could clean up as well when they didn't have anywhere indoors to do so. While we were, this project was intended to meet an immediate need, which was providing opportunities for people to wash their hands, use the restroom, practice sanitary practices. It was able to also provide or serve as a pilot project for restrooms. Both our organization and Campus District had been talking for years about the need for public restrooms in our neighborhood. We weren't quite sure how to approach going about raising the money or making it a priority over all of the other priorities that both neighborhoods are also working towards addressing. And so the temporary restrooms were so successful that it served as a proof of concept to allow us actually to go out and raise more than $960,000 to install permanent public restrooms in our neighborhoods. And so through the same partnership, we have 5 permanent restrooms coming to Cleveland. I believe they're actually being shipped here now. They'll be installed in Ohio City and Campus District. There'll be 2 in Ohio City. Novak Park and Fairview Park will be the initial locations. We do view this as just the beginning of a citywide program. The City of Cleveland has been involved in the conversations as well over expansion and maintenance of the public restrooms. Additionally, the partnership received a grant from Cuyahoga Arts and Culture to install public art wraps on each of the Portland Loos. And we worked with the Hawkins School of Mastery and University Circle this winter. The high school students, we partnered with an art class, and the high school students each designed mural concepts for the Portland Loos, and during that process they learned about the history of our neighborhood and some of the issues surrounding the need for the public restrooms, and designed some public art concepts that they presented to community members that helped them develop the concepts, and 2 were selected. So there'll be public art wrapping the Portland Loos when they're installed that were designed with high school students in the community in mind. And so the design of the Portland Loos, you can see them here right behind me. They were designed for safety. And so a lot of the misconceptions around public restrooms in the public right-of-way, we realized weren't actually true when we did the temporary installation the past 2 years. And so we selected best practices, the Portland Loos. They're all over the country, including Columbus and Cincinnati, who are also installing them in their city post-pandemic as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. I'd also like to say it's one of my favorite parts about doing this work is the ability to see real grassroots movement impact policy that becomes a lasting change in our community. I'm never amazed, like at organizations like ours, how the work that you can do can become so tangible. And with that, first I would like to acknowledge that Ohio City Incorporated is one of about 20 organizations that are all kind of rowing in the same direction, so to speak, to make Irishtown Bend a reality. And then also, this is the Ohio City Incorporated annual meeting, so I guess you'll hear it from me. And then, also I can tell you that one of the most common questions I get walking around the community is, is Irishtown Bend really happening, right? I feel like it's something that has been in the conscious of people for, we've been involved for over a decade, right? And everyone's kind of looking for what those next steps are. And I think that there's a lot of reasons for that, right? A lot of you probably participated in the vision plan that was adopted in the fall of 2017. And then we went through a small silent phase, right, as the project partners were all working on some of the critical steps of acquiring necessary properties. It's a $50+ million stabilization work as phase one, right? And putting those pieces together. And we were just getting ready to come back to the community for some more detailed community planning around the designs on how stabilization impacted things in the spring of 2020. Right? And so that kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in our plans, but it was interesting, as we mentioned earlier, I think a lot of the work that was done through our community engagement plan in 2021, we were able to start testing a lot of that work through Irishtown Bend, right? So again, for those of us that were fortunate enough, we use an online project platform called Co-Urbanize, where we can host information on these projects. But you started to see signs out throughout the community so that if you don't have access to a computer, you can still give input with text messages that all kind of get coalesced into here. Our committee of champions that was working with residents of Riverview Tower and Lakeview Estates, and Whitney Long Jones did a masterful job, I think, of bringing people together with other residents and stakeholders of our community that typically weren't interacting, right? Ways to kind of have small groups and talk about this, culminating in last fall, a public meeting that about 150 people attended that was our first live streamed event. So that, again, if you couldn't show up at Merwin's Wharf on Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m., you still had access to all of that information that was going on. And all of that information came in to help shape a kind of a final refined vision for Irishtown Bend Park. And this is something that, is no longer a dream, but will be our reality. As I mentioned, there is over $50 million that has been secured for stabilization, which is fully funded. You may have noticed the tree clearing that took place about a month ago. That was really kind of the first step the Port of Cleveland beginning to prep this. I also wanted to say one of the most meaningful things I think we were able to do over the past year, and this was kind of one of those rare triple bottom line wins. We were able to acquire the old Front Steps building using some unique financing from both the Cleveland Foundation and the City of Cleveland that was able to get Front Steps some money as they moved down to their new home down the street and enabled us to make that facility available to the YWCA for temporary homeless housing during the pandemic so that the Norma Hurst facility could be a little bit more spread out. And then that lease recently expired and allows us to take a very strategic piece and put it back into the project. So again, that tree clearing was phase one. The Port of Cleveland is in the process right now of releasing bid packages for that stabilization work. That'll happen in May, and they anticipate the full-blown stabilization beginning in some point this summer. That's about an 18 to 24-month process. As you know me a little bit by now, I remember weird stats, right? They're going to clear enough dirt off that hillside to fill Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, right? Over 250,000 cubic tons of dirt. So no one is going to miss it when it starts, and replacing the bulkhead. And we intend, absolutely, for the fences never to come down on that. And when stabilization is complete, to launch right into the park. Alongside Land Studio, we have been working on privately raising funds behind the scene. We will be announcing probably later this summer a capital campaign that is going to go towards that. We're doing very well this far. There is a lot of interest in making this a reality. And so again, I think by 2026, we're all going to be standing on something very similar to this. and it's a really exciting time. So, with that, I do want to take a minute to talk about, some of the things that we are doing moving forward here, and really kind of closing the chapter on the last couple of years, which, while meaningful, haven't been a whole lot of fun, right? And so, as we begin to kind of move forward together, I think that there are, a few things that we'll be focusing on as we kind of find this new normal, building off our engagement plan, and part of that is living up to that JEDI statement that Whitney read aloud to you today, and finding ways within our work to make that a reality, right? And so, to that end, we'll be doubling down on our community engagement efforts, and we'll be hiring a new full-time equity manager that'll work with residents of Lakeview Estates and Riverview Towers on a full-time basis, within our work. And, along with that, I think we're all seeing with things like Irishtown Bend and Lorraine Avenue, which is also really starting to move along, right? The fruits of like that long-term planning work in the neighborhood. We have raised a substantial amount of money. Some of you may know that there is currently a master planning effort going on for the future of Lakeview Estates, which Jeffrey Patterson, the chair of CMHA, always likes to start off from. There will be as many public housing units there tomorrow as there is today, right? And we have been able to raise some supplementary dollars to figure out how do we best connect Lakeview Estates back into our community, right? And so we're really excited about moving that work forward. Again, if you look at our past strategic plan, there was a really nice section on evolving from community outreach to community engagement. And that is what a lot of that means. And at the same time, we know and recognize that we need to make sure that we are accountable to everyone in the community and that we are focused on those outreach efforts still. And so as we talk about rebuilding capacity, that will also be a new community outreach manager that we're really excited about, who will be here later this summer. And then I think also very important for some of you know, we've spent the last couple years building and launching the Near West Land Trust to build permanently affordable homes in our community. We're looking to get those off the ground this year, and we're very excited about that. Like I said, it's about 2 years in the making. Councilman McCormack mentioned, I think, a couple really important parts with the city of Cleveland and the work that they're doing now. We're all excited for the changes that are happening at the West Side Market. Part of our role in that is going to be helping to bring the community into that process when it begins. And then even from an event perspective, I know that we're probably not ready to all walk back through everyone's homes like Evening in Ohio City, but really excited to have Katie Bond back on board, and we're looking at new and exciting ways to get together and celebrate again as a community. And then lastly, we are about 2 years expired on a strategic plan because it turns out that creating a strategic plan during the middle of a global pandemic is not a best practice. And on top of it, like I said, we got pulled into a lot of different things that we need to do, like public restrooms and other things, to be responsive to the needs in the community at the time they faced us. And we are looking to turn that page and move forward, and looking forward to moving together with you in the future. So with that, I want to thank you all so much for the program. I am going to invite Gigi Benjamin up, our governance chair, to talk about our Meet the Candidates.
I'm short. Can you hear me? Thank you. I am the chair of the governance committee, and so I get to invite our candidates who are here tonight to come on up and join us. There's chairs for you all. We have 4 board seats for 3-year terms available, and we have 9 candidates for those seats. So I'm delighted that we have this community involvement. Members of Ohio City Incorporated can vote for the board seats, and you will be able to vote for 4. The top 4 vote getters will be elected. The deadline for membership is this Sunday, April 24th. You can get a membership application here. You can get it online at the Ohio City Inc. website. Sunday, May 22nd is the deadline to receive absentee ballots, and the elections will be May 24th, Tuesday. There will be a polling location at OCI's headquarters at 3308 Lorraine, and we will have another one. We're still working out the site at probably at Lakeview or Riverview or convenient to those places as well. So you can vote in person in 2 places or absentee. So we've asked each of the candidates, and by the way, the applications of each of the candidates are online at the Ohio City Incorporated website, so I encourage you to go look and learn more about these folks. But we've asked them to spend a maximum of 2 minutes each. I told them it was 1, so hopefully they will be really short. We're going to ask them to come up and tell you a little bit about themselves and why they're running for the Ohio City Board. And what I've done is I've just arranged this sort of alphabetical beginning, end, next, beginning, next, end, so it's totally mixed up. So anyway, we will start with Jonathan Floyd. And if you would, there's a microphone somewhere, and if you would come stand on that spot, you will be good. And I'm timing you. You need to turn it on.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Hello. All right. Well, good evening. I'm Jonathan Floyd. I've been an Ohio City resident and homeowner since 2011. As you can imagine, I've seen quite a bit of growth and development during that time, and would love to be a part of it as more than just a participant. So I think that's really the main draw that's driving me to this opportunity to join as a board member here. A little bit more about myself. I'm a transplant to the Cleveland area, originally from Denver, Colorado. Went to college in Florida A&M University. And I moved here from Pittsburgh. So the opportunity to relocate here, or a finance opportunity with Alcoa, is what brought me here. I've worked in a number of different organizations since I've been here in Cleveland. I mentioned Alcoa, worked at Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, most recently as Director of Finance and Administration at a nonprofit, Fund for Our Economic Future, and currently at Cisco as Finance Manager, so food distribution. So a number of different organizations. And also, I spend time as a mentor at the Jackie Robinson Foundation, which is a national organization that I was a part of when I was a scholarship recipient of the organization, and also an associate board member for the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. It's been a pleasure talking to a number of you before the start of the meeting here, and we definitely appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Chrissy Wells.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chrissy Wells. I live on West 38th, south of Lorraine. I have lived in the neighborhood since 2010, and I am in fundraising at College Now Greater Cleveland. I guess I have 3 kind of primary things that interest me about being on the OCI board, 2 of which I put in my application. The first being traffic calming and what OCI can do to kind of change the nature of streets in our neighborhood. My husband owns Joy Machines Bike Shop. Many of you know him. And we're both, well, Alex is car free and I'm very car light. So we experience the neighborhood on foot and by bike quite a bit. The second is how can we develop more minority owned businesses in the neighborhood? And the third is I think the board should consider term limits for board members. So the neighborhood has changed quite a bit, and these elections are usually pretty competitive. I ran for the board several years ago, and I think there were 16 people running for 4 seats at the time. A lot of people don't run because they don't want to lose. And I think just having new voices on the board would be really important. And it's just the best practice also for nonprofit organizations in general. So those are my kind of 3 topics. If you have any other questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. And so next is going to be Alex. And let me just comment that hopefully our candidates will stay around a little bit after the formal session, and if you have questions, you can talk to them individually.
Thank you, Gigi.
Go.
Good evening. My name is Alex Frondorf. I've lived in the neighborhood for 15 years. About 9 years ago, my husband and I built a house on Clinton Avenue, and I've served on the Ohio City Board, and I'm currently serving as the Vice President. I also serve as the chair of the Franklin Clinton Block Club, and I also am on the Ohio City Design Review, which works to protect and preserve the historic district, along with my colleague, Nina. I would like to continue to serve on the board, to continue, as I look out this evening, I know most of you in the room, we've worked on projects together over the years, and I would like to continue to do that, to focus on the quality of life, to focus on maintaining stable, affordable housing for all. Tom mentioned Fairview Gardens, working on that. I've worked on the land trust program to bring single-family affordable homes to the neighborhood, to maintain the affordable homes that we do have in the neighborhood, to focus on safety, to focus on having fun public spaces, and to really focus on increasing and maintaining the quality of life for all who live in the neighborhood, an accepting, welcoming place, as Whitney spoke about earlier, for all people in all walks of life. And so I'm asking for your vote on May 24th so that I can continue that work and continue to work with each of you on that work. So thank you.
Thank you. Roger.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Roger Shavy. I've been a resident of Ohio City since 2005. My partner and I live up on Franklin Boulevard. I've proudly served on the board of directors since 2007, I believe. So I'm one of the old timers and great candidates to choose from. Oh, sorry about that. I'm a realtor by day, a team member of the Galashay Galatner-Shavy team that's based here in Ohio City. With my business partner who lives in North Olmsted, we chose to establish our business here in the neighborhood. And I have also a rental property business, and I received a great compliment last week from an appraiser for financing who said, do you realize your rents are 25 to 40% below market? And I think they should be lower than that. So I'm proud to help make the neighborhood better and know a lot of people and have served as a block club leader for many years. Recently have given that one up. We have new leadership at 4552. And I try my best to bring a unique component to the board service from the real estate component, bringing information to the government entities as to what is going on with the builders and developers and with residents, making sure that residents, if they are selling and leaving the neighborhood, get the best that they can for their property, and that the people who come in to do work know the kind of work and stuff that's expected in the neighborhood. So if you're willing, I appreciate your vote, and thank you for your time.
Diane, you're next.
Good evening. My name is Diane Howard. I live at Lakeview Terrace with CMHA. Been at Lakeview Terrace, first a high-rise since 1999 when I first moved over here. So I began to see what my community and the children needed in my community. And Thomas McNair, before Whitney, there was Destiny, my councilman, Kerry McCormick. At that time, he wasn't a councilman. It was Joe Sipperman. And then it came Kucinich. So in my territory, or in where I live in Ward 3, and also I'm a precinct committee person for Ward 3A. I love my community, all my communities, especially in CMHA public housing. I'm not going to keep you long because I am a long talker. I am an activist, a community activist. I don't work with RTA 25 Connect to keep our buses going through Lakeview Terrace, not give us no more buses, which they was going to do. So I work with RTA 25 Connect. Ashley worked with us with RTA 25 Connect, getting the porta potties and new bus stops, shelters. So I do a lot. And I'm proud to do for my whole community. Even with, anyway,
You have
CPT, Cleveland
half a
Public
minute.
Theater, Ohio City acted with our children, our youth. We did a play on Tamir Rice, because he did used to come in our community to play. But to make a long story short, I ran before, and I'm running again.
Thank you. Steve, you're next.
Hello, my name's Steve Mott. I've only been here 15 months, so I'm really a newbie, and you're probably wondering, well, why am I here? We may have to run again and again to get to know everybody and to get your support. But I have a story to tell. You can look at my background. It'll tell you all the different things I've done in 50 years of business, Marine Corps service, those kinds of things. But my lovely wife, Janie, in the back over there, came here 15 months ago on a visit, fell in love with the place, and we've since invested in and essentially dedicated our lives to trying to become a part of this very cool community and to try and help where we can. So I'd like you to think, rather than just about the background, three things: vision, ideas, and energy. The vision, I think, manifests, as you'll see a little bit in my write-up. We did a rehab, or doing a rehab right now, on a very interesting location that a lot of people get their first experience with Ohio City with. And we learned a lot in the rehab process. It's not very easy to do that stuff here in this community. As great as it is, and as many wonderful things, walking around and all that, that's one of the things I think could be easier, and I might be able to help do that. We also have another place that you may have heard already, some of you in the block clubs. We're going to try and turn 4110 John Avenue into a boutique hardware store, so that when you just need a couple things, instead of driving down to Steel Yard, you can walk through Ohio City and get it. And you can also get trash bags, and you can get snow shovels when Home Depot doesn't have them, and a lot of things like that. But it can also be a place where things that the elderly or the poor might need to fix a fence or to fix a door or replace a window, that would be accessible. And you could also have people, because it's hard to find people to do work, whether it's snow shoveling or mowing the grass or anything else. But there's a lot of work to be done.
Thank you.
So I'd like to have your vote so we could do those things.
Thank you. Sorry. Laurel, you're next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Laurel Miltner. I am new again to Ohio City. My husband and I bought our place on Bridge Avenue in December of 2020. And I'm an Ohio boomerang. So he and I met in Chicago. We both spent about 8 years there. He grew up in Minnesota. I dragged him back here when we decided it was time to invest in a home and really establish ourselves and become a part of community. So I'm here, and I know I'm a newbie, but one of the reasons we moved here to Cleveland and to Ohio City is to be civically engaged and be a part of our community and help make it better. Having grown up in the Cleveland area, I understand a lot of the history and where we're coming from, and I see the changes, and a lot of them are very exciting, and there's a lot of things that we need to get right to make sure that we aren't pushing people out. So I would love to be a part of those conversations and a part of those solutions. My background is in marketing, so anything marketing related I'm able to help with, and I also spent about 6 years in commercial real estate. So while I'm not like a broker, a lot of experience just as a part of that industry, and I think that's a big thing of what's going on around here. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm happy to talk to anybody afterward or connect when I see you around town, but I'm asking for your vote today to get to know you, learn from you, and see how we can work together to make Ohio City even greater. Thanks.
Thank you. Brian, you're next. Yeah, you're last but not least.
Good evening. My name is Brian Mallory, and I am currently the CMHA resident on this current board. Those of you know me that know that I claim to be, not claim to be, I am Joyce and Eddie's baby boy. And I start there because that is the legacy and the journey that I bring to this table. My parents and my grandparents are all Cleveland natives, born and raised here. I just turned 59 a couple of months back, and I have literally spent half my life in this city. I was not born here, but I started my family here. And my first experience with Ohio City was back in 1999 to 2001. I lived in a little apartment that was half of a floor flat, West 45th between Franklin and Bridge. And back in those times, this was not the gentrifying, shay, up-and-coming neighborhood that it is now. But the thing that most impressed me, being a kid from the DC Baltimore area, was the scale of the neighborhood. Trees, homes, mixed businesses, mom and pops, cafes, and I saw the potential. Little did I know, about 20 years later, that I would be a resident of the largest public housing project in our county that sits right there on West 25th, drawing a big shadow over Lutheran Hospital. I've lived there for 4 years now, and I have watched this neighborhood grow and thrive. And being a kid from the East Coast, I know what gentrification looks like when it's done right, and I know what it looks like when it's done very badly. OCI has done a very good job balancing the interests, money, the power, the access, and is just impressing me beyond belief with this JEDI initiative, this intentional, well thought out engagement to include everybody in this community. I'm a bit of a history wonk. Okay, let me just say I'm a community activist by trade, and I do have lived experience, and this is the thrill of my life to be a part of watching something like this go right. Thank you for your time. Vote for me.
Hello, my name is Antonia Marinucci. A lot of you know me as Nia. I have been an Ohio City homeowner and resident since 2014. I am an architect, and I mostly specialize in historic restoration and renovation of residential homes. So I started out in corporate architecture, and how I actually got into, sorry? Oh, is this better? How I got to where I am now is when we were house hunting in Ohio City, we were pretty dismayed at some of the quality of renovations that we had seen in the neighborhood, and felt that we would not be investing in something that had true equity to it the way things were being done. And we decided to embark on our own gut renovation to see if we could do it a little bit more, with a little bit more integrity. And learned a lot of hard lessons, because that was not what I was practicing in corporate architecture. But so that led to eventually starting my own practice, doing that. A lot of which of my work is in the near west side, and these historic homes gives me the knowledge of really truly understanding our housing stock, both in preserving it, but also in tactics and tools for homeowners to create true equity in their properties. My other interests in my educational background involve economic development and urban design, both of which I see would be applicable to these large-scale infrastructure projects that we have on the horizon in the neighborhood. So I'm hoping that I can bring my skill set as an architect and urban designer both to the micro level and looking at our housing stock and working with homeowners, but also looking at these broader really impactful projects and ensuring that we're creating equitable public space and infrastructure and accessibility to all of our residents and our business owners and visitors. And last, personally, my husband Jeff and I have welcomed 3 little babies since we moved into the neighborhood, and we're digging in deep, and we're staying to raise our kids, and they serve as a great inspiration and have given us a new perspective to understand how vulnerable members of the community live and participate and move through the neighborhood as well. So,
thank you. I'm sure there's, well, I think we ought to give all of our candidates a round of applause. I'm very excited that we have this wonderful group. So, Tom, I think that's it, right? That's the end of our annual meeting. Thank you all for coming, and as I said, please stick around and chat with our candidates. Thank you.
Where'd that 2 minutes go?
Good to see you, Diane.
Where did that 2 minutes go?
I don't know, fast, though.
It goes fast.
I tried to be fair.
Oh, you were very fair. But I gotta tell you, when you took a step toward me, I flashed back to my football days, and I was about to like turn and give you a little juke or fake.
I would have just.
But I had to remember the decorum, so, but thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a while.